Hello and welcome to another episode of Down to Disney, a monthly series where I pick a Disney animated movie and talk about its history and its impact on pop culture. In honor of its live-action re-release, this month's movie is The Jungle Book, released in 1967, Disney's 19th animated feature. Jungle Book is exciting to talk about because it's famous for a lot of reasons. It's one of Disney's most famous anthropomorphic animal movies, which means the animals act like humans. It also has an award-winning soundtrack, very famous voice actors, and it was one of the first Disney movies to use recycled animation. What does that mean exactly? Have you ever been watching a Disney movie and realized that some of the characters look very similar or have maybe repeated kind of the same sequences? Scenes from previous animated movies like Sword in the Stone and 101 Dalmatians were used in The Jungle Book, and later, sequences from The Jungle Book were used in movies like Robin Hood. These were times that Disney animators took the same kind of rotoscoped movements and redid the animation on the characters' faces, made it a little bit different while keeping the same movements. For the record, this wasn't the animators being lazy. A lot of Disney animators have come forward and said that the most difficult thing you can do is redo sequences where two characters are interacting with each other, and so they needed to rotoscope old footage in order to get things done in a timely manner. There's a lot of different reasons that people talk about, but what everyone can agree on is that it wasn't done to save money, and it wasn't done because the animators were lazy. The Jungle Book also used Disney's xenographic system, which was first used on 101 Dalmatians. This technique combined Xeroxed cells with hand-drawn ink cells. Like I previously mentioned, Jungle Book has an all-star voice cast. Sterling Holloway famously voiced the snake Kaa, and it was the first and I think only Disney villain that Sterling Holloway ever voiced. Verna Fenton, who you might remember from my Dumbo episode because she voiced Mrs. Jumbo, also voiced an elephant in The Jungle Book. She voiced Winifred the elephant, who is actually the only female animal in the movie to speak. Many of the characters in this film are also drawn to look like their voice actors, specifically Shere Khan, who was voiced by George Sanders. And fun fact, the vultures were actually written into this movie to be voiced by the Beatles. They were not even going to be in the movie before the idea of the Beatles voicing them was brought up to Walt Disney. The Beatles manager approached Disney with the idea, and Disney absolutely loved it. And then John Lennon found out about it and totally vetoed the idea. Still, you can probably tell that the designs and the voices of the characters are truly inspired by the Beatles. The idea to adapt Rudyard Kipling's book into a movie was brought up to Walt Disney by animator and writer Bill Peet. I don't know about you, but I read a lot of Bill Peet books when I was in elementary school. I'm a big Bill Peet fan. So Bill Peet brought this idea up to Walt Disney, and he was really excited to showcase his and the other animators' work on animating animals. Unfortunately, Bill Peet wanted to stick more to the dark, dramatic aspect of the Rudyard Kipling novel, and Walt Disney wanted to make it a more fun, family-friendly film. So Bill Peet, along with the original composer Terry Gilkyson, were scrapped from the project because both of them were going for too much of a dark and dramatic vibe. And this was actually when Bill Peet left the company. All of Terry Gilkyson's composed score pieces were removed from the project except for Bare Necessities. That was the only song that they kept in the film, and every other piece of music that you hear in The Jungle Book was written, of course, by the Sherman Brothers. Elton John says that when he was writing music for The Lion King, he drew inspiration from Bare Necessities when writing Hakuna Matata, because if you'll notice, they're kind of the same song in terms of the message. Speaking of the Sherman Brothers, the song Trust in Me, which was sung by Kaa, was originally written for Mary Poppins and was going to be called Land of Sand. Didn't make it into Mary Poppins, but they found a use for it in The Jungle Book. Many people incorrectly claim that The Jungle Book was the last movie that Walt Disney ever personally supervised. This is only half true because The Jungle Book was the last animated movie that Walt Disney ever personally supervised. The last movie he ever worked on was actually the live-action film The Happiest Millionaire. Walt passed away in 1966, and The Jungle Book was released in 1967, and it received very positive reviews. People sometimes attribute this to the fact that people were feeling very nostalgic about Walt's death and obviously wanted to go see the last animated movie he had worked on. The Jungle Book still remains relevant in the Disney fandom in a lot of ways, obviously including the 2016 live-action adaptation. While it may not be the flashiest, most popular Disney animated movie of all time, it's definitely one of the best from the 60s and gave a revival to animated movies featuring animals. It's also a super important piece of work in terms of the Sherman Brothers repertoire, and the use of xenographic imaging in this movie is super important because it shows the ways in which animators at the Walt Disney Studios were evolving and changing their methods. My favorite thing about The Jungle Book definitely has to be that it was the last animated feature that Walt Disney ever personally supervised. I think that's amazing. He obviously obviously had a lot of heart in this film. He wanted it to be fun and family friendly. You know what? I don't even mind, because today we have the super dark and dramatic live action adaptation that I really like also. We have the best of both worlds, like Hannah Montana says. So let me know in the comments down below what you think of The Jungle Book. If you saw the new live action movie, which one you prefer maybe, what's your favorite song from The Jungle Book? Also, as always, let me know what movie you think I should do next month on Down to Disness, and I will see you guys real soon for more Disney videos. Bye!